Welcome, everybody. This is Gauntlet Hangouts. It's Thursday night. We are playing once again Swords Without Master. This is the third session in January. Um, I'm glad to welcome Alex, Jesse, and Kyle to the game. And real quick before we start, everybody's just going to go quickly through their characters and tell us a little bit about their character. Maybe go through your name and your feats heroic and your trick real quick, and then we'll get started. So let's start with Jesse. You're muted, Jesse.
Every time. My name is Jesse. I'm playing Mara. Mara is formerly a member of, Mara is a slight of build. She's very quick. She is, she has abstract designs tattooed on her entire body. Swirls and geometric shapes, and all sort of in a dark blue. She wears kind of loose, ill-fitting leather armor. She is formerly a member of the bandit crew known as the Damned, whom she fled with Scimitar, her raven companion. And she carries a hooked dagger that she calls Talon. Her feats heroic are jovial. She cuts through the danger, bright-bladed and swift. And I'm going to come back to the other trick because her trick is unparalleled. And she's replaced glum with the tone uncanny. And her uncanny feat is she disappears into the shadows, leaving only cold in her wake.
Awesome. Alex, let's hear about your character.
Alrighty. So I'm playing Epidiah. She has long black hair, and dreadlocks, and completely matted together with clots every here and there. With dark red robes, really big, bulky, very flashy. She was born and raised in the Great Rift, a cave in the middle of the desert, until one day the band called the Platinum Contingent came and destroyed everyone and everything that was there. And so she left with only the Scarlet Estoc, the last sacred blade that they had in their hand. Her feats heroic are glum, sacrifice blood to the Scarlet Estoc for power; jovial, dance my way through the blades for my foes; and the trick is inevitable foe, Exalda, the leader of the Platinum Contingent.
Really, really good. How do you pronounce your character's name again?
Epidiah.
Epidiah. Okay. I'll probably forget that more than once.
No worries.
All right. And then we move to Kyle. Tell us about Gildas.
All right. So, Gildas, she has a very shaven head, kind of monk-like, and wears robes with pockets everywhere, deep pockets and hidden pockets, and all kinds of stuff hanging from her belts. She has a brother, Dagon, and they used to be really close. And he is the leader of a street gang called the Shepherds. She is no longer. They had a bad separation, and she is not close with either the gang or her brother anymore. She has a dagger on her at all times, which she refers to as Betty, and it's been with her, forever. It's like part of her person, basically. Her feats heroic are jovial. She excitedly reaches into one of her pockets and pulls out something useful. And glum, she melts into the darkness, and then her enemies notice her when it's too late. And for her trick, canny cognition. So she's owed many debts from like a lot of people, and so she often trades in knowledge and all that with them. So she knows a lot of info from a wide range of places.
Awesome. I think we have a really cool crew tonight. We will start and get into the game. So, I imagine Alright, well, real quick, I'm just going to go over a quick setting of this world. The world's basically a bunch of city-states. Each city has its own little ruler, government. To the east are the Badlands. Something bad happened there a long time ago. The world's very weird out in the Badlands. But there's a lot of treasure to be had out there. So the three of you are actually returning from the Badlands. And you're carrying with you a box. And this is the box of the Oracle you were sent to get in the Badlands. And you are now returning with it to this town. Let's call it let's call it Rahim, the town of Rahim. And you're bringing the box back for the leader. We'll just say he's a mayor. And you return at night, and it's starting to get pretty cool. I would imagine this is like fall. The night's crisp. The day was short. You didn't have much time of daylight, but you pressed on to get to town, and the gates are closed. And up on top of this watchtower is a particularly sleepy-looking guard, and he seems to be annoyed that there's people approaching at this time of night. Nobody's supposed to be traveling at night. It's just dangerous out there. And before you even reach the gate, he yells down at you. Hey, what the hell you think you're doing? There's no entrance in here after dark. You should know that. Nobody enters Rahim after dark. Daylight only, you have to wait outside until then. And not in front of the gate either, it looks bad. So, we're going to enter a rogues phase. And I'm going to make a demand of Gildas. I think this is a good spot for her. Gildas, show us how you managed to manipulate the guard into opening the gate. So what you want to do is you want to roll first to get your tone,
Okay.
and then show us how you do it.
All right, just 1 second.
It's slash roll 2d6.
Okay, gotcha.
Cool. So you are jovial.
Cool. So I think what happens is Gildas like steps out in front of the group and just like very pleasantly talks her way through. So like, saying like, oh, like these big excuses of like, we've been traveling and we're just getting in a little late, and like surely you can open it, and I'm sure we can make it worth your while. We've just been out treasure hunting, and so and the guard at first, he's like very hesitant and very not into it, and as soon as she mentions treasure, his like whole demeanor changes, and he's like, well, could probably make a little exception, and he like opens not the big gate, but like there's anyway, like some sort of smaller gate, the little door in the gate, and he lets us in, and she tosses a couple coins into his hand.
Nice, I like it. Okay, so Kyle, you get to make a demand of another rogue, or you can make a demand of the overplayer to show how the world reacts to something. When you frame your question, you want to frame it as "show us how." and just grab the dice and roll 20 and pass it to whoever you're going to ask the question and make your demand.
Okay. Maybe I'll pass it to Jesse and something like show us how you find us lodging for the night.
Okay, so it's dark, as has been established, and it's
You got to roll first, Jesse.
Oh, every time.
Oh, you rolled a stymie. So, and it's a stymie where neither die is above 3, so that becomes a mystery as well. Now, what a mystery is something stops you from answering that question. It actually flips the question on its head. So he asks you, show us how you find us lodging for the night. And so now it becomes, show us how you don't find us lodging for the night. And the reasons for that are mysterious or supernatural in nature, and you get to write a question about it after you're done. And the overtone was glum, so now you are jovial.
Okay. So, excuse me. As I said before, it is quite dark. We are well past whatever the middle of the night is, and it's about as dark as it can be. And first, we start, walking down the main boulevard from the gate, but there's nothing open. No one's awake, and so we start meandering our way into sort of like the dark side streets, and the alleys are getting narrower and narrower, and the buildings are getting more and more decrepit. And finally, we come upon a shitty inn of some kind that has one. I can see one light. There's still a candle burning in a back window on the first floor. So I go, and with like the butt of my knife, I start banging on the door. It's like banging on the door. I know you're awake in there. Let us in. We have money for a partial night's sleep. And I hear a little bit of stirring. We hear a little bit of stirring inside. And the door opens. And there's this weazened old woman bent over, cane, more awake than anyone has any right to be at this time of night. And she says, you can come in, but there'll be no sleep here tonight. And as we start to walk in, because it's terrible outside, and we'll figure out what that means once we're in shelter. From that back room, what I mistook for candlelight was a, if this old woman was a glowing circlet, some kind of glowing metal, hovering about 3 feet in the air, giving off. Now that we're inside, it was a dull glow from the window, but inside we can see it's actually like a bright, shining light. And do I need to come up with a question right away?
No, you can come up with a question after you pass the dice. That's fine.
All right. And I'm gonna Pass. I'll pass the dice to Apollo. Is that how you pronounce it? I'm sorry if I'm wrong.
No worries. Apollier.
Apollier. I'm sorry, to Apollier. And I'm going to ask you to show us how you respond to strange magic.
So I roll the dice first, right?
That's correct. Okay, so your second die is the highest, and that will be jovial.
Hmm. Goodness, this is hard. To think like as soon as we step inside the lodge and like it's all nice and warm or like out of the freezing cold outside, and Apollier spots this mysterious light, like her eyes just like light up, and she immediately rushes over to. Sorry, you said it was like some kind of metal.
Jesse?
It looked metallic in its glow, but you can, however you want to take that is fine.
So yeah, I think like immediately as what should it be? I think it is just like a lump of metal, like it's nice and like smoothed out, like this weird like bulbous shape. It doesn't make any sense. Like it's not this crystalline structure. It's like this cloud of metal. It's just like slowly emitting light. And Apollier sees this and just like freaks out. It's like, oh my goodness, this is magic. This is real. And so Apollier is just like doing a celebratory dance, like a little like twirling around in this back room while this old lady's like staring on, like, what is this stranger doing in my home? What is up with that? And Apollier is just like twirling around until someone calls out and says like, what the hell is up? What are you doing? And Apollier like realizes this and is like, my apologies. I think that's about it.
Okay.
Pass the dice.
Yeah, that's fine. You can pass the dice to another player or the other player, make a demand, or you can end the phase. It's up to you.
I think I'll pass the dice to Kyle
All
and
right.
say, show us why we aren't getting any sleep tonight.
So I think after we're all inside, the door there was a biggish guy standing near the door that we couldn't see, and he closes it and kind of like stands in front of it.
Kyle, not to interrupt you, but roll first
Oh,
for your tone.
I need to roll, right?
Yeah, you need to roll.
Yeah. Okay.
I also added a thread from Alex's narration. Rushing towards the shiny yet unknown. Oh, you rolled a stymie as well. So you get to
Right.
show us how you all are getting sleep tonight, and it is supernatural or mystical in nature, and you get to write a mystery about that. That should be a
Okay.
fun one.
Um, I'm not sure I get the mystery part of it, but I think I got the rest.
Okay, so the mystery is afterwards, like, if you look at Jesse's example, he wrote what glimmers within this wretched refuge. So that was based on his mystery about the light. Um, so you will show how you are all getting to sleep tonight, and it will be mysterious or supernatural, in a way, and you'll have to come up with a question about that. Um, and your tone is actually glum, since it flipped the overtone back to glum.
Okay. So yeah, like I was saying, big dude steps in front of the door, um, and yeah, there's no violence, but like the tone of the whole room got like a lot more serious than we were expecting. Um, and yeah, the lady, she said something kind of sinister of like, um, yeah, maybe she was like super awake. So maybe they're like, yeah, they're just like partying really hard or like, on some sort of thing that's like keeping them all awake, like the people in this room. And they're like really intent that we're going to like hang out with them and like do their thing. Um, Gildas is super exhausted from like the travels that they've had, and is not into it at all. And she reaches deep into her pocket and pulls out a bag. And she's like, "No, we're going to sleep." And like pulls out this dust. So she starts going around the room like dusting everyone, and people just start dropping. And then yeah, she does it to herself too. At the very end, she like finds a nice couch and like like dusts a little bit, and then yeah, they all fall asleep. Um, who knows what'll happen when they wake up? But she's at least getting rest, and yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Actually, I think that is a perfect segue to end this phase. We'll end the phase there. Go ahead and write your mystery, Kyle. If you need
Okay.
help, we can all help you. If you have trouble coming up with one. Um, Now that we're in between phases, you can use your tricks now if you want. If not, you can just keep them on hold. You don't have to use your tricks, but if you ever see it at a point where it seems like it'd be narratively correct to use your trick, you can. Um, but we're gonna go to a discovery phase. Um, I could go so many places with this. Okay, so in a discovery phase, when you receive the dice, you'll roll immediately, and then you'll narrate something you discovered or just learned about the world, or it could be something that you known before, and then you get to ask me, the overplayer, a loaded question about it. Um, do you have any questions about that? I know the loaded question kind of trips up some people. A loaded question is basically something that can't be answered yes or no. Um, like, don't ask, is it nighttime? You can ask, why is it nighttime at noon? That's a loaded question. It's something that I would have to narrate on. Um, so yeah, so you all fall asleep and you wake up and you don't know how long you've been asleep, but you feel as well rested as you could possibly feel. Like that was the best sleep you've had in a long time. And you've been traveling for a while. You've been in the Badlands for a while, and now you're back. You're back in town, and you wake up and you feel really refreshed. But you don't know where the hell you are, because you're not in that building anymore where you were when you fell asleep, however long ago that was. But you're pretty much, you're probably underground because there's no windows here, and the walls are kind of mildewy. It's a little stinky down here. You don't know what that is. But yeah, you're in this room and you go to move and you notice that there's a clinking noise And that each of you is now chained to a wall. So I'm gonna give the dice to Epidiah. Start this one. So you will make a discovery. Oh, I forgot to do this during the first phase. I need to come up with a thunder. Uh, the thunder is you hear voices outside. And now what a thunder is in this game, it's like an omen that could be a bad thing. Should it come to pass. It's kind of like a flavor thing. So during this thunder, you hear voices. It sounds like they're in a different room, but you definitely hear voices. You don't recognize the voices, and you can't really tell what they're talking about because it's like all muffled. But yeah, that's the situation you're in right now. So, Epidiah, you can make a discovery in this room, and then you get to ask me a loaded question about it.
Okay, sorry, I completely forgot. So, what's the making the discovery part?
Like you make a discovery. You discover something in this room. It could be anything you want. You can make up anything you want.
Oh, right. And I
then,
roll 2d6 first. Yes.
Yeah, you roll your stuff first to get your tone, and then ask me a question afterwards. Oh, you get a moral. Okay, so what a moral is when when neither of your dice is above 4. The tone doesn't flip. You are jovial because your second die is higher. You make a discovery, but there's a consequence of it, and you need to come up with the consequence of it after you make your discovery, and then you will come up with a moral for that consequence.
Hmm.
Not sure what kind of we're already chained up in a dark room. I wonder what kind of horrible consequence you're going to build on top of that.
Oh, I've got it. So I think we're all chained up in like individual rooms with imagining like jail cells. So like separating us from the other side, and we see this like not quite a kid, like a looks like probably late teens, sitting in like really extravagant robes, like faces like covered in like the most bright face paints, and like hair is done up really well, chained to the wall just like we are, and like they've got this biggest grin on their face, and, like their like hands are shaking, and it's like oh man, I can't wait. And when Epidiah calls out and says like, what can't you wait for? Like what are we doing here? It says like, oh, it's the festival. Don't you know about the festival? And like we see, if we like strain the chains as far as they go, and like lean as far as we can through we can get a glimpse through the bars of like this big like board, and like the whatchamacallit, the guard room, the room outside the bars, not a jail cell, with like the fire festival, and like this big like red letters, and we see like below that like new special guests, like new sacrifices for the fire, come one, come all. So I think the discovery is the sacrificial festival, and the consequence is we are going to be sacrificed.
All right. It's a pretty good consequence. I would like to see it more character focused. So you said the discovery is the board, right?
Learning about the festival.
Okay, so the discovery is learning about the festival, and I'm gonna up this consequence as the overplayer. Yeah, I can stick with the you're gonna be sacrificed, but I think the guard. I think it's the same big burly man you saw come into the inn earlier when everybody got kind of quiet. Um, he comes marching into the room and sees you peeking your head out. You got your chain stretched as taut it as will go, and you're peeking your head out, and he grabs you first and says, "Oh, you're so quick. You want to feel the fire already?" And he pulls out this brand and brands your hand, and it's a symbol of it's like a flame within a circle. Um, and yeah, so you're the palm of one of your hands is branded, and that is the consequence. So you want to come up with a moral on that?
A moral, sorry?
Yeah, a moral.
Oh, good question.
No, not a question. A question is for mysteries. Moral is like don't throw rocks in glass houses. Um,
Oh,
like
right,
an
right.
actual moral. So the moral is because you had a consequence of you peeking out at that or learning about the festival.
Uh-huh.
You can think about it for a second. When you come up with it, if you have any trouble, just holler out. Maybe we can help you come up with one. Um, I'm gonna say the discovery phase is gonna continue. Um,
Oh, got a moral this quickly. And we don't trust kindness in dark places.
there you go. If you will, type that into the chat and I'll copy it over. Um, I'm wondering. No, actually, you know what? I'm gonna end the discovery phase right there. I'm not gonna let it go any further. I think that gave us enough direction to go into. I'm gonna move into another rogues phase. Um, and this one I think so. You're in these individual cells, and um, you have this other character in there, uh, with the bright face paint, in another cell, and and you're all chained to the walls. And this big brute of a guy just branded Epidiah. I mean, you can smell it. You can smell the burnt flesh. It's now lingering in the air. Um, so I'm gonna give the dice to Mara. I think this is a good one for Mara. Mara, show us. So hold on. Me say that the thunder is that smell of burnt flesh. Um, because you're all gonna be sacrificed. That's the omen. The smell of burnt flesh. Mara, show us how you slip your chains and free you and the boy with his face painted. Do you want to roll
Okay.
first?
Actually, can I use one of my feats?
Actually, you want to roll first?
Oh,
Because if it's in that tone, you could just say it. You don't need to use a feat.
right. I was gonna use my trick, like the unparalleled. So it's not.
Oh no, that's ongoing in the game. So like, if you're
Sorry, so
first,
maybe I just don't understand it. So meaning anytime I roll glum, I should be narrating an uncanny.
that is correct.
Okay, that was not entirely clear to me, so thank you. In that case, I will just roll.
So you can use a
Yeah,
feat if
I would like to use my feat.
okay.
My feat heroic of uncanny. So I'm going to be narrating an uncanny. And is it still a consequence and a moral?
No, actually that would have been a
Ignore the
mystery.
roll altogether.
Yeah, that would have been a mystery. No, with feats, I didn't explain this, but you could only use
Sorry.
it once per game, and it ignores the dice altogether. So you just narrate with your feet.
Got it. Okay. So here's what happens. So Mara, just you're sort of all looking uh, looking at Apollier, and like that smell of burning flesh is like kind of overwhelming. And then all of a sudden, or not all of a sudden, but like over the span of 5 to 8 seconds, you feel cold, like deep, bone-chilling cold, radiating out from where from where I was sitting, where I was chained up against the wall. And when you turn to look, I'm gone. There wasn't even a rattle of the chains; just disappeared. At that moment, sort of flying very silently in from the hallway, the entranceway where the guard had just branded Epidiah, is a raven with blood on its beak and a single key in one claw. And it flies to the corner where this dandy is, or this painted faced person with the perfectly coiffed hair is sitting, and parks itself on top of their hair. But it doesn't. The hair doesn't move. It's not out of place. Everything sort of stays solid. And I materialize next to it. I take the key, and go to. I try first Epidiah and Gildas's chains, and the key doesn't work. And then I walk over to this person, and it fits their manacles, and I uncuff.
Awesome. That was pretty good.
Great. So now it's a rogue's phase, right?
Yeah, it's a rogue's phase. You can pass it to another rogue and make a demand, or you can end the phase. I'm just going to make note that we are done with the first motif. So the second motif, we just continue like normal, but one of them has to match either the first or the echoes motif in a way. So as you can see, blood dripping from Raven's beak, echoes dripping with crystalline color.
So
Sorry.
Go ahead, Alex.
So is it just one needs to be reflected, or all of them need to be reflected?
No, just one thread in that motif needs to be reflective.
Okay. Sweet ass.
all right. So I'm gonna pass the dice to Gildas. I want her to show me. Sorry, 1 second. I want to see something. Like, I feel like this is a cool moment for her, but I don't have the best question. So I think it's something along the lines of, show me. I'm taking too long. Show me how you manipulate this person into letting you out, into getting you free, you and Epidiah.
By this person, you mean the person with the hair and the
hair and the painted
clothes?
face? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And with the raven still parked on their head.
Right. That's good for the mental image. All right, let's roll first and see what we're doing.
All right, you are glum.
Glum. All right, so I think I think what's happening is that person, as soon as they're free, they like start to like get ready to like bolt forward, and all the other people in the room, they're all like, shouting the obvious, like, save me, like, get me out of here, you gotta help, all that stuff. But Gildas is just very quiet, and very like introspective, and looks really not down, but like content, like not panicked at all, and it really like piques this person's interest, and they're like, you're about to get burnt, like why don't you care? Anyway, and she just keeps playing them along, and like, stuff like, whatever, it'll all sort itself out, and makes no difference. And this like gets under the guy's skin so much, just like, yeah, that he's like, you want to, yeah, you want to get burnt so much, like he's so irritated at her at this point. It's like, you want this to happen? Like, no, it's not going to happen. And he like, he's got, how does he get her out? Yeah, I want to say key, but that doesn't feel like he wouldn't have a key. He's got like a pick. He's like somewhere on it on his robe. He's like a good lock pick. And he's like, I don't know what your deal is, but like, whatever. We're getting out of here. And so yeah, gets me and Epidiah unchained, and then we're free for now. So far in this room, free in the jail.
That's good. I'm typing in a motif right here. Jesse, are you typing one too? You're muted.
I am, but you can go ahead.
Okay, well the whole aggravated by calmness.
Yeah, I like that. It was a similar idea, but I was trying to figure out how to phrase it. So,
All right,
go with.
I like that one. So yeah, Kyle, you can pass the dice and make a demand on another rogue, or you can end the phase.
So when I pass, can I pass it to? I can pass it to the over player as well, right?
Yeah. You just put the dice over the starting picture, and you can ask a question about the world, or show us how the world reacts.
Sure. So I'm gonna do that. So I would like you to show us. Yeah, I want you to show us how the guards that are left, how they react when they walk into the jail cell and find all of their prisoners are no longer chained.
All right. So I'm still glum. I do this in a glum way. I can't have them barge in and just start flashing steel. So yeah, I imagine like a guard comes in and this big guy, the one that branded Apalier's hand. I mean, that's a big guy. The one that walks in behind him is like a third of his size, like this real scrawny, not well fed looking guard, and he sees this big guy with Apalier's hand or wrist in his hand, still smoking from this brand. And then he looks around and sees everybody's free from their chains, and well, let's see, what should we call the big guy? He'll just call him Biggins. He's like, "Damn it, Biggins! What the hell do you think you're doing? You're not supposed to mess with the sacrifices. They're supposed to be pure. When they go in the fire, they need to be pure." And he starts kind of mumbling to himself, and you can see the light behind him. It's so dark down this hallway that he came out of. You can see the light kind of shimmer off his back. He's like, "I'll show you how to take care of these." And he's mumbling to himself, and it's, you can feel, you start to get the prickly skin, the goosebumps, because you know he's doing something that's not good. And I'm gonna end the phase there. And we're gonna move into a perilous phase. So we added another motif here. All right. So this scrawny figure is somehow affecting all of you with this low guttural mumbling, and you feel the goosebumps, the skin prickles all down your body. It just, it's almost intoxicating, the feeling you're getting. You almost feel like you're gonna fall into that sleep again. Um, and yeah, that's the thunder. The thunder is, you're about to pass out again, unless something happens. And I think Epidiah is in the most danger right now because she is still held by this big freaking guy named Biggins. So how the perilous phase works is I will narrate and I will keep making things worse for the characters until you roll the dice. When you've had enough, you say stop. I could be at any point in my narration. Just tell me to stop. You're rolling the dice, and then you can narrate, whatever, to take yourself out of that situation or somebody else out of that situation. To the other players that don't have the dice, you're welcome to say, "Oh, I'd like to slip and struggle and show how you're fighting against this, but you can't overcome it, not unless you have the dice and roll it." Does that make sense, Kyle and Alex? All right. So, Epidiah, this guy has a grip, and the skinny guy is mumbling these guttural words. I mean, he's not speaking a language. He's doing an incantation. You can tell that much. Your skin's starting to prickle, and you don't know if Biggins is squeezing harder or if for some reason your bones are getting softer, because you can feel your wrist almost melting in his hands. And you see that branded hand kind of just flop over a little bit, and you feel your strength wane from it. It begins to turn colors. It starts off with a white color, and then it turns kind of bluish, and then it turns really dark, almost black. Except for that brand, which is starting to glow red, like an ember red. You can feel the black moving up your arm as it moves towards your elbow.
All right, I might roll some dice before I die. Oh man, so tense. But what am I rolling for? Am I answering a question? Oh, I know, it's like the thing getting out of this.
Yeah, you can actually narrate your action. You could do whatever in a glum way, because you are glum. You roll glum.
Mm. Oh man. So how dark are we fine going? Like, are we fine with some gore? Because I can think of some pretty nasty ways to get out of this.
I'm good with that.
Sweet as. So think what Epidiah does as this blackness is encroaching and this like heretical brand is pressed onto a palm. Like as the bones feel like they're melting, she eventually just like starts tugging as hard as she can. And like as the blackness reaches her elbows, she pulls so hard against the shackles that the hand just like comes off. Like it falls apart like rotted flesh. And just like left with the bones. And like some blood dripping down the arm. And so we see Epidiah like use the bones in her arm to like punch at the jailer to try and get out. And like as he's like kind of like shocked at this, and, like getting hit in the face, Epidiah uses the stump to go for the keys, get her other hand free. Sorry, am I passing the dice at any point, or is it just I go through the entire thing?
No, you could you can go all the way through a resolution for your character, and then when you get to a point where you want to pass the dice, you can pass the dice to another character, and I will bring the pain on them.
Okay, sweet ass. So I think Epidiah like gets the keys off of the jailer and like retreats back into the cell. He's like rammed up against the bars, like trying to swipe them back, but he can't reach anymore. So Epidiah gets her like shackles free. Wait, no, was she shackled? Let's say she was shackled because I've already gone this far. And then jumps on Biggins and starts like tearing into him like an animal, like biting at him, like thumbing at his eyes. And like eventually, after enough abuse, he like slumps down against the bars. And I think I'll pass the dice after killing Biggins to go for Mara
All right.
and say, how do you stop the scrawny mage?
Well, this isn't a rogues phase. This is a perilous
Oh.
phase. So I'll bring the danger.
Sweet ass.
And Mara will just roll when she's ready to. So you took out Biggins, right? He's done for.
He's gone, so.
God, I love that imagery of him holding just the flesh of a hand. That is so gnarly.
Yeah, that should actually be. Hold on. Hold on. Flesh dripping through fingers.
So Jesse, I have to ask, shimmering hackles. What do you mean by hackles?
So, you know how like the sort of like the shoulder and neck area of like a four-legged animal, like
Gotcha.
when they talk about their hackles rising, like it like this the sort of the hair goes up when they get into like an aggressive or uncomfortable, like they're like frightened or whatever, like defensive stance there. That so I was sort of imagining this like when you described the light coming off his back around his neck, right? It was like it was to me it was like he was getting into that, like almost animalistically getting into that posture, but with like this magic light coming off his neck.
Okay, I got you now. I learned something new today. That's called hackles. I didn't know that was called hackles.
I've never heard the phrase in any other context except for referring to like the hackles rising, like this particular like posture of animals in that, if you Google it, you'll see, you can see a picture.
All right, I know exactly what you mean. Okay, so Mara has the dice. Gildas, please feel free to struggle against this. You can even like show your character fumbling around if you want. It's up to you. Just jump in whenever. But yeah, Mara, you see Biggins go down. Go ahead.
Sorry. Okay, just go ahead.
No. I mean, you could, if you want to slip and struggle, just say, "Yeah, I want to slip for a little bit, slip and struggle for a little."
Yeah, no, I want to hear the danger, but I was going to ask about passing dice at the end, so I can pass it to another rogue, or
Yeah, you could pass it to another rogue, or you could pass it back to me, and that ends the perilous phase.
Got it. Okay.
I've seen a player pass it back to the other player after one roll. It was pretty funny because we were fighting like a dragon, and then all of a sudden we were someplace else wearing a wearing dragon scales. So it was pretty funny. Mara, you just saw Pallier kill a gigantic man with her bones, her wrist bones, pretty much. Yeah, and you saw that happen. You're like, all right, yeah, you can take care of herself. But this guttural mumbling is getting louder in your ears, and your skin's starting to prickle, and those the color that her hand turned, your skin's starting to blotch a little bit. It's kind of turning red. It's not as dramatic as what happened to Apalier. Um, but your skin is starting to blotch in places. You're noticing like a red rash on parts of your skin in different places, and the muttering is getting so loud in your head that it's almost blocking out all. You don't know if the guy is speaking louder or if you just hear him inside your head. Um, and it's getting louder, and it's like drowning out your own thoughts. Um,
All right, I'm gonna roll now.
okay.
Uh,
Oh, it's a moral. Oh no.
oh, this is my favorite. Um, and I'm uncanny.
No,
Or sorry,
well,
I go with the higher one. I'm jovial.
yeah, you're jovial.
I'm jovial, and there's a consequence and a moral.
Yes.
Fantastic. So, so I think what happens um, is like this as the sound in my head is getting louder, and I'm like unable to hear my own thoughts. I shout, and I can't even hear myself shout. I say, "No more!" I shout, "No more noise!" and pull from where it's been concealed somewhere in the back of that leather armor, um, my hooked dagger. Take 2 steps. He can't see. He doesn't know what's going on, and just quickly cut through his trachea um, to, to stop his noise, to stop the sound he's making. Um, um, but I think what happens is not what I'd hoped, which is so blood spurts out. I can hear, I mean, I can see him, like his lungs are still heaving, even though he doesn't have, his diaphragm is still moving, even though he can't breathe like through his mouth anymore. And he's just like, he's falling down. He collapses. But but instead of silencing the noise, um, it inverts, and instead of being in my head, it's now in my ears and in the room, and the entire the cell is shaking with the sound of this noise, and his body continues to glow. And yeah. So, and then I'm going to pass the dice to Gildus.
So, so the consequence is that the sound was originally only in your head, but now it's
Right.
everywhere, and it's
It's
yeah.
dangerous. Maybe
Yes.
it's a portent of something that's making. I mean, it could be a lot of things, right? It could be
So I have to ask you,
something that's now coming.
right? So I have to ask you, did you kill the man, or is that
Yeah,
still
he's
up in
dead.
there? Okay,
Yeah, he's dead.
so you can pass the
Right,
dice.
that was the.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say that like the idea was I overcame like the peril of what he was doing to me, like what he was causing me, but the consequence was it was now everyone is in trouble.
Okay, I got you. So are you gonna pass the dice to? Oh, you passed it to Gildus. Okay. All right. So Gildas, I'm so glum. Um. So yeah, you saw a Palier kill a man with her bone. You saw a man's throat get opened, and the guttural mumbling stopped coming from his mouth, but instead bursts from his throat, and it's a cacophony of this ancient chant, and it's bouncing off the walls of this dungeon, and it's shaking everything, and you feel the roof is starting. It feels like it's bouncing on the walls, and the other guy that was in the cells with you, the guy with the crazy hair and the painted face, he is in a fetal position in the corner. He's got his hands over his ears. You can tell he's screaming, but you can't hear it because the sound is it's blotting out everything in the room. He's screaming, his tears flowing down his face, and those tears, like as they go down his face, like touch the floor, and as they touch this floor, you notice little sparks of light from where his tears are hitting the floor, and they're getting bigger. These sparks, they're getting bigger, and you notice his eyes are glowing, and the tears are glowing, and there's these tears are starting to ignite on the floor, and it's like this unnatural burning, almost like gasoline burning on water. It's this guy's tears are turning into flame, and his whole head is turning into flame.
All right, all right, all right. I think I'm gonna roll. All right. 2d6. Cool. So that's gonna be glum. Is that right?
That is correct.
First one is glum.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Um. Okay. So Gildas is in this pretty messed up scene. Yeah, and this sound is like it's like so intolerable, right? It's like um yeah, really, really, really miserable. And she's like just sitting there taking it for a while, not sure what to do. And then she's like, watch as all this is playing out. And then when the noise is still coming from the throat of the now corpse, yeah, she like gets herself up and starts making her way towards him, and she's like stumbling and hitting into walls and like can't keep herself steady. And then you get one of those scenes where she's like dragging this body and trying to like hoist it up on top of her, and there's blood and stuff everywhere, and it's just it's this really rough scene, and she's like stumbling, hitting into walls, like her legs are buckling, but she eventually gets him like out of this room, and there's like a drop off, like they're up on a level, and she like tosses this body out of the window, and he goes crashing down, probably into like the sacrifice area where there's people, and it makes a big scene, but the room calms, hopefully.
Awesome. So yeah, you can pass the dice to somebody else if you want to continue seeing peril, or you can pass the dice back to me and end the scene, or end the phase, I should say.
I feel like I'm down to end the scene as long as that's cool with everyone.
Yep, it's your choice.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, that was a cool perilous phase there. Oh yeah. So where do we go from here? Still glum. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna move it ahead in time a little bit. Like, you've made it out of this wherever you are at. You are now outdoors of this huge building. From the size of the room you were in, you thought this building was small, but like this is like a huge building. It's fort-like. You can't see around it when you're standing in front of it. So you come out of this building, and it's pretty much daylight now. Like, it's noon. which is it's almost like a shock to you because of how dark it was when you arrived in town, how dark it was when you woke up in the dungeon. But now it's like it's pretty bright outside, and there are throngs of people everywhere. Um, and when they see the the three of you, right? Yeah, the three of you. I'm gonna say the face painting guy's not around. Um, they see the three of you out there in the streets. They all just stop and are like just agape, staring at you. Um, they're not moving. They're not saying anything. They're just you, it's so chilling, and that is the thunder of this rogues phase. Okay. Um, is this whole crowd that just stopped, and they're all staring at you, unmoving and unspeaking. And oh, you should get the dice. This is a tough choice. I think Gildas should get the dice. I think this is a good spot for her. Um, Gildash, show us. I'm gonna make this a bit leading. Show us how you incite the crowd into screaming rage.
um, okay, let's roll first. I always forget to roll. I was about to jump into it.
All right, so that is a moral. You could use a feat if you want to ignore the dice, or you could just roll with a moral.
Well, I might. What do I want to do with this? So incite them, incite crowd was the question. How do I incite the crowd?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, I'm not quite sure where I'm going to go with this, but let's just start. Yeah, I think so. Walk out, and everyone's staring. And Gildas starts like leading the way, just like walking, like trying to like pretend that nothing's weird. You know, like all these people are staring, but she's just trying to like go about her business. And like they start walking through the crowd, and everyone's just like staring at them. And like people like aren't getting out of their way, like they're bumping shoulders, and it's very bizarre. And she like tries really hard to like keep her cool and just like get to the destination that they had in mind. But yeah, it's just like this like big crowd that she's like continually making her way through, and it's just like being stuck in like that big crowd. And she eventually loses it, and like shoves a person and starts like yelling at these people like, the hell are you all doing? Like, what's the fuck's going on here? And they don't like that. And the crowd like turns, and yeah, this becomes like a bad scene, like pretty riotous, and they're like kind of stuck right in the middle of like a bunch of angry people.
That is perfect. You did have a moral, and I believe the consequence kind of fit the question. You pretty much incited a riot in a way with your actions.
Right.
So come up with a moral for that, and you could pass the dice, and make a demand.
Cool. Um, let's pass this to a Palier. So show me how. Um, yeah, show me how we make our way through this like angry crowd and like find some cover, like how we get out of this riot, basically.
Alrighty. Man, this could really go either way, depending on whether I get glum or jovial. I got a tie.
Okay, so it's not a mystery because the dice are high, but it is still a stymie. So my overtone flips. I am now jovial. Um, and you are jovial as well, since you speak in the overtone on a stymie. But he asked the wait. Rephrase the question, Kyle.
Um, Question was, show us how you like get us through this riot and like to some sort of safety. Like,
Okay, so that becomes show us how
great.
you don't get us through this crowd.
Right.
Or you can use one of your feats heroic to ignore the dice and ignore the stymie.
Hmm. I think I'll roll with the stymie for now.
Okay.
So I think like after the initial like turning and like everyone's facing us, like these angry scowls on their faces, like a few like shouts of like, what are they doing? How dare they? Get them! Like from the backs of the crowd. They're all kind of like circled in, and like Palier like isn't really used to like this many people in one place, and so like immediately tries to like break out, and so we see her like dancing between people like this like flow of water until she just like runs into a wall, like someone shoves her to the ground, and you see like everyone's like what used to be like just a crowd has now like solidified into like walls that are closing in on us. So, like everyone's like shoulder to shoulder, and there's like no way through, and they're just like slowly marching towards us, and we can like see in the distance some people like are lighting up torches, and, like the shouts are getting louder and louder, and everyone's joining in, making like the solid thudding of feet as like this sea of people is closing in on us.
I like that. I like how you said you were dancing into a wall. So, yeah, Palier, you can pass the dice, or you can end the phase.
Hmm. Oh man, that's a good question here. When you say in the phase, does that mean like immediately cut to a new scene, or just like something new happens?
It could be a cut to a new scene. What it is you're giving the dice back to me and saying I'm ending the phase. That's a chance for anybody to play tricks, and I will move to a new phase. It could be within the same scene, or I can move 100 years in the future if I wanted to. But you know,
Oh, right.
I can totally change.
Yeah, sure. I'm down for in the scene on a ominous note.
All right. Um. Okay, now I got to move to a jovial. Uh. Kyle, how you coming with that moral? You good?
Just about there.
Okay.
Just words, grammar.
No rush. Yeah, we're gonna go. Let's see. We were in a rogues phase. I don't know if I want to do another rogues. I can do another rogues phase. Actually, I'm kind of at a loss here, so we're gonna go into a discovery phase. Maybe that'll help push things in a direction. Um, I imagine that. All right, you're no longer in this crowd on the street. Um, you've actually whatever happened between then and now is in the nether. But here's what's happening now. You are still with the crowd. We'll say this is like sometime later, like it's starting to get dusk, and you are actually sitting up on the stage at a feasting table. The crowd's no longer like hostile towards you. Um, you are actually feasting with the people. Um, and they're like bringing you everything that you can ask for. You want wine, they bring you wine. You want food, they bring you more food. You want a certain type of food you ain't had in forever, they seem to have it. Um, so so yeah, it's just like this jovial feasting and drinking, and everybody's laughing and having a great time. And you're like sat center table. Like the mayor isn't even sat center table. The three of you are. The mayor is kind of off to your left. Um, yeah, I'm gonna give the dice to Tamara here. Um, it's a discovery phase, so you can make a discovery at any point, but you're in the middle of the feast, and the thunder is everybody's being overly friendly to you.
All right, I'm gonna roll. Well, now I am uncanny. I love it. This is my favorite thing yet. Um, so um, I think I think what happens is like you say, we start to like we're on the one hand we're noticing that like nothing about this situation makes sense. On the other hand, it's also fantastic. Um, so I think at first we're sort of trying to willfully ignore the like forced joviality, our odd um, uh, centered location, the presence of the mayor, um, and um, I think um, I think what happens is the you know so where the three of us are sitting and eating, Scimitar the Raven is like perched on the table next to me, and there's like um, a giant dead raw turkey, like not cooked, that she's been given as like a treat, and a bowl of wine, a bowl of beer that she's lapping from, and um, what I start to notice, um, or what we all sort of start to notice, is that um, she's not the only raven there. But the others aren't part of the party. They're all flying above us, and there's like a pack of not just ravens, crows, vultures, um, all of these carrion birds, just sort of floating there, not floating, but hovering, as if they're expecting a massacre, or as if there's something dead here that they want, um, that they just can't get at, and like that's what we see, like these eerie hovering of the Karen birds. And remind me how dice passing at the end of a discovery works. I pass them back to you. I pass them to another player.
You pass them back to me. And ask me a loaded question about your discovery.
Got it. So, what do the Karen birds portend?
All right, I'm just typing in a motif real quick. Flock of winged scavengers. I kind of like that. All right, so we only need one more thread, and then we go into the end game. Um, do we have any in this third motif that echo anything yet? Let's see. Crushing weight of human wolves.
Not really. So
Yeah, I don't see it. So this last thread needs to echo something from the previous three threads. Um, I'm sorry, I lost track, Jesse. What was your question?
Sorry. What do these scavenger birds portend?
Um, the scavenger birds are the first part of a ritual that has been practiced in this town for eons, it seems. Um, they await the birds. Um, because when the flock arrives, that means the real festival can begin. And that's my answer. So, yeah, I'm gonna pass them back to Epidiah. You can make a discovery. Uh, you're feasting and eating at this feast, and there's a bunch of carrion birds around. Hope it didn't ruin your appetite.
Oh, discovery about the world.
Mm. You want to roll first as well.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Crush down dice. So easy to forget.
Okay, so you are glum.
I am glum. Hmm. Hmm. So I think the discovery Apalia makes is like she's having a lot of trouble eating with one hand, and so like someone from the crowd has offered to help and is like cutting up the food for her, and she can just like fork it into her mouth. And when they're like leaning over to cut up more of the food, Apalia sees inside their tunic and like catches a glimpse of this like really like not sparked, spiked, barbed dagger with like these really intricate carvings all over it. And as she like scans the crowd, like in the some of the people on the nearby table, she can see that same bulge. I think the discovery from Allier is everyone's got these sacrificial daggers on them at the moment.
Okay, and you get to ask me a loaded question about it.
Uh-huh. Uh, I think my loaded question is, what are they waiting for?
Awesome.
That is fantastic. I just wanted to say it.
uh, they're waiting for a sign from their god of death that the cleansing of the weak can begin. So that's what they're waiting on. I want to move into another phase, but I'm really liking this discovery phase. So I want to get one from Gildas too. Um, yeah, I think we're doing pretty good on this one. Gildas, make us a discovery.
Oh, that's
That is
a
a
2-2.
that is a mystery. Okay, so here's how mysteries work in the discovery phase. Um, what happens is you still make the discovery, but it's not known to the characters. It's kind of like when you're watching a horror movie and you see the ghost like behind the main characters, and the
Gotcha.
audience sees it, but the characters don't. That's the discovery you make. And it's
Okay.
also it's both are below 3. It's also mystical or supernatural in nature,
Sorry, it's mystical.
or supernatural in nature, and you'll come up with a
Uh,
question for that.
okay. Okay. Um.
Also, the overtone flips, so you are glum.
I'm glum. Okay. I guess that's fitting. Um. Yeah. So I guess that. Um. Yeah. So the three of us we're at the table and we're eating and we're having a pretty good time despite it like being really weird and like that feeling that this isn't going to end good. But for the moment, we're doing our best to enjoy it. And so we're sitting at a table, and there's people all around us, and like it's probably even like kind of stadium like where there's like people rising kind of like all around us, so that we really don't have much of a view. Like we're almost like in a pit, sort of. Um, and yeah, as we're doing that, the like flock of ravens they get thicker and thicker, and like yeah, they start to like blot out the sun, like it's just like this cloud of them. We can't tell because we're like pretty illuminated by torches and everything, but like a lot of the people around us see like the sun get blotted out by these ravens, and that's like the sign from their god, that it's time to what did you say, cleanse the weak or something.
Yeah. Cool.
um,
So so that's something that you don't notice. You don't notice them blotting out the sun. I imagine that you all probably thought it was like a cloud or something moved in front of the sun, but it's
like,
actually this flock of carrion birds.
mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. Yeah, you're right, Jesse. It does echo the raven's beak. But I'm actually going to go ahead and add the last thread because I like birds blotting out the sun.
Evian eclipse. I mean, it's
Yeah, birds eclipse.
yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, quick explanation. Now that we have all our motifs filled, we now move into the end game. And the great thing about Swords Without Master is the end game is just like the rest of the game, except for during your narration, you can what we call reincorporate. So you can take 2 threads from any motif, a singular motif, I should say. So you could take 2 threads from the first motif, or 2 threads from the second motif, or 2 threads from the third motif, or even 2 threads from the echoes motif, and combine them to make something new in your narration. Um, like for example, uh, rushing towards the shiny yet unknown and a dandy in chains, right? If I'm gonna reincorporate using those two, I could say something along the lines of um, something bound in gilded chains. Does that make sense? You're kind of mashing something up and making something new out of it. That's one way of reincorporating. Another way is to answer a mystery question. Um, and a third way is to suffer a moral, which means during your narration, you have one of those morals show up again, and then you just show how your rogue either learned or didn't learn from it. Um, if you reincorporate during your narration, just after the narration say, hey, I reincorporated such and such, and you can't receive the dice again. Once two players have reincorporated, the last player will roll for tone and do a little epilogue to close out the game. Are there any questions on that? Okay. So yeah,
Wait, sorry, got a question. Just thought of it. Does using a moral count as reincorporating?
yes. You can suffer a moral. Yeah, all you got to do is show how your rogue either learned that moral or didn't learn the moral.
Right. That's the finisher.
Right. Also, Kyle, you didn't ask me a loaded question about that bird eclipse, so you still get that.
Oh, right. How do, how does the god of death get his dues? We're obviously being sacrificed in some way, but how are we being served up to him, basically?
Okay. So yeah, this ritual, it's all about the sacrifice of the weak by the strong, symbolized by selfishness. The three of you have brought back a treasure that the town mayor asked for. You did them a deed, but they're going to show their selfishness to the god of death by sacrificing you. So yeah, that's the ritual. And I'm going to end the phase there. And we are going to move into a perilous phase because this is a perfect time for a perilous phase. So whenever you narrate here after you roll the dice, if you reincorporate, just say you reincorporated. You can't receive the dice again, and we'll continue playing. So, as the sky darkens, as this huge flock of carrion birds blots out the sun, a pedestal raises right in the middle of this pit, right? But there's people everywhere. There's hundreds of people everywhere. And upon this pedestal stands a single human being. And this human being is covered in a hooded cloak, and all the different types of feathers of all those carrion birds are flowing from this cloak that this figure is wearing. There's vulture feathers and raven feathers and all sorts of bird feathers. And you see this figure raise its head, and you can't see the face because the cloak's so long. It's just a dark mask in there. And the figure pulls out, a pretty long, sword. Well, I mean, not a real long sword, but like a gladius, like something the Romans used to use. Kind of short, bigger than a dagger, but smaller than a sword. And raises it up to the sky. And as he raises it to the sky, the birds pierce away from the sun, and just this one shaft of sunlight falls upon this figure. And illuminated by this light, he drives the sword into his own chest. And the blood starts to flow, and you hear the sound of weapons being unsheathed. All these daggers are coming out, and they're all staring at you, but you also hear screams because people are being killed in the crowd as well. But the majority of it is focused on you. So that is the thunder, is the unsheathing of the swords, the man plunging a sword into his own heart. Um, wow, who wants to dice first in this situation? Um, you know what? I want to see Mara in action because I think she seems like she's a badass in this situation. Uh, so Mara, just roll whenever you're ready. Apollier and Gildas, if you want to slip and struggle, just say I want to slip and struggle and say what you're doing. Um, so yeah, Mara, you're surrounded by enemies. There's freaking mad, crazed people everywhere wielding these ornate daggers. Um, one of them just kind of like, he doesn't jump towards you. I'm not gonna say it's a he. I'm gonna say it's she. She doesn't jump towards you. She slowly walks up the steps towards the stage, dagger in hand. She's slowly approaching you. It's not like combat you're used to. It's not fast and fierce. It's she's coming for you, and she's gonna sink that knife somewhere into you slowly. And she doesn't go to walk around the table. She kind of creeps onto it with her elbows and just gets close and just looks you right in the eye.
All right, I'm gonna roll as soon as she's looking at me in the eyes, like almost nose to nose, right?
Right. Okay.
So that is a jovial roll.
Oh yes, it is.
So I again, that dagger appears like no. So this woman has her is nose to nose and face to face with me. And that dagger appears, and I slash at her, but it doesn't do a lot of damage, but it pushes her back, and the raven, which has been sitting on the table, had like when all of this hubbub had started to happen, had flown up and was kind of lost in the crowd of other birds. But then dives down, talons first, clawing and then pecking at her face. Meanwhile, I think that's one person. This crowd of people has been slowly enclosing, and she feels the the pressure of their bodies, and some of their knives are starting to cut into her. As she was focused on this one person, a trap door opens. Right, they're on this raised platform that the table was on, or maybe not. But either way, a trap door opens from underneath the table, and she hears sort of like a scratchy voice say, "Come down." Come down here. You can escape from them here. And I'm reincorporating the moral don't trust kindness in dark places, as she has very much not learned that lesson. And it follows the voice down with a shout to Gildas and Apollier to follow if they want to be saved. Yeah, that's it. I pass the dice back to you, right?
No, you'll pass it to another player. You pass it to me if you want to end the phase.
No, I don't think I want to end the phase. I'm going to pass it to Apollier.
All right. Yeah, I like that. Voice in the darkness. I wouldn't jump down there.
I love not learning. I love characters not learning lessons. That's my favorite thing.
Awesome. So, Apollier, yeah, right when this craziness started happening, there was somebody cutting your meat for you, and they were cutting it like as you were eating. They were cutting it slowly. They were making sure not to tear the meat against the grain. Like this person knew what they were doing with a knife and meat. And as the spectacle that happened in the middle of the crowd with the figure up on the pedestal plunging a sword into their own heart, The person that was cutting your meat turns around with just this super sinister smile. It's unnerving, this smile. It's a smile of gratification, pleasure, and almost evil. But how can evil come from something that seems so happy? And they calmly put the knife down on the table they were cutting the meat with, pull out their dagger, give you a little one of these. Come here. And
Sounds like a good place to roll.
all right, you're glum.
Alrighty. I think Pallier sees this like incredibly calm, happy individual wielding this crazy knife, and so he pulls out the scarlet earstock, which is like a really old, rusty blade, like covered in flecks of blood. It's like it looks like it'd like snap the moment you tried to use it. And she runs it along like the blackened part of her arm that was like still remaining from the brand before. And like as the blood seeps into the blade, like it slowly reverts into this like beautiful glittering form, like this pristine blade. And I think she just immediately starts like tearing into this poor person who's like wasn't even expecting this from a one-handed, like priestly looking figure. And it's like this rage and anger from a Pallier. It's like these people that look so kind are out to betray her, and like they couldn't stop at like trying to sacrifice her once. This is just like there's no redeeming them. They are monsters. I think she like makes quick work of this first cultist, and like this goes on a rampage into the crowd. And I think I'm recombobulating aggravated with calmness and shimmering hackles into shimmering anger.
Nice. I like that. That was good. Awesome. So, since we only have one player left that didn't reincorporate, we are about to close out the story with Kyle. Kyle, you will roll for tone, and you'll give us an epilogue, which is like the closing scene, montage, however you want to do it, of this movie.
Yeah, all right.
Good luck resolving those two cliffhangers.
Oh, wait, that wasn't right. Try that.
So it's a stymie,
Done.
so that flips the overtone. So you get to do it jovially.
Jovially, all right. So I thought this up for incorporating purposes, but that doesn't matter. I still want to do it. So yeah, as this breaks out and the crowd starts turning on them, Gildas tries to run. So she's like trying to make her way through the crowd, and she's pretty nimble, right? But it's so many people that like it can only get her so far. And eventually somebody gets like a really good grab on her cloak, and she like takes her cloak off to like get out, and she's still running, but like she knows that this isn't going anywhere, and she finds herself at like the foot of a statue, and she climbs up the statue. So she's up on top of the statue. She probably has like a dagger in her knife, and there's all these people staring up at her, trying to get at her, probably throwing stones at her, and I think even at that point, like ravens start swooping at her and start like pecking at her, and she's just like, yeah, in a bad spot, but still like super defiant and like fighting on. And she gets like so annoyed by these swooping ravens and like the whole scene, that she grabs one by the foot, and she she breaks it, like tears it in half. And this is like a symbol of these people's god, right? So they get like very, very upset seeing her like kill the messenger of their god, basically. And like she's up high, so like a lot of people see this, and she becomes like the main focus of this mob, and maybe gives the other two like a chance to escape down that hole. And she like fights on for a while, but eventually they get her down, and it's a bloody gruesome mess, and that's where we fade to black.
Nice, nice, good job, everyone. That was excellent. That was another excellent story. That's 2 weeks in a row we've had excellent stories on this game. Um, so yeah, before we move on and do the echoes for next week, I want to do a quick roses and thorns for this session. Say what you like, say what you didn't like. Say things I did badly, say things I did good. I got thick skin, I could take it. Um, so yeah, does anybody have any thorns for this session, or the system, or my GMing?
I guess this is maybe a thorn, but it's such a small thing. I almost feel bad bringing it up. Um, Thunder and storms. Um, we don't use them. I mean, you for most of the phases, although not for all of the phases. I think you missed one or two. You usually would bring one up, but that the players, for the most part, we weren't incorporating them when you did use them, which is also not an incentive for you not to use them. And I just wonder, like, this was an awesome story, but like I wonder if like we had stuck with a thunder throughout a phase, like some of the individual scenes would have had more internal coherence, which I imagine is the purpose of having that, right? Like, or is it more about, and like I said, I think the scenes were awesome. Like, we did cool stuff, but like I wonder, like I'm trying to think about the mechanics of the game and like how what kind of play they're trying to guide, and I just wonder if that does something.
The way I see it, I'm sure there's probably different interpretations of the thunder. I mean, the thunder is spelled out in the game that, it's an omen of danger yet to come. But it doesn't have to be the danger, because I think because this is such a free-form narrative game that the players, every narration can shift what's going to happen in one way or the other, I think that's why a lot of times your thunders don't come to pass. I think the thunder is just there for the purpose of, there's like, it's swords and sorcery, so there's always something that's about to go wrong. I think that's the purpose of it, to show that there's something bad about to happen, if I had to guess. But that's my interpretation. Anybody else have a thorn? All right. How about any roses? Oh, go ahead.
I've got a rose. Um, that it's like it's just a particular scene, Alex, but I thought it was fantastic. The way you like it was really both you and Pat together, right? The way you took that perilous phase with with your sort of like bones and skin softening, and he gave you the material to work with, and then you just like walked headlong into that peril that he set up for you, and just like embraced it and used it and made something super cool. That was great.
Thanks.
Yeah, that is awesome. My first rose for this game is Jesse. You had mentioned something last game about not being able to pinpoint the tones in narrations. That it was hard for you. I think all three of you did a really good job hitting tone this game. I was able to pick up from it from the start. Everybody during every narration, you were really good on hitting your tones. So that's a rose for me. Anybody else on just the
I
gaming?
Yeah.
think,
Go ahead.
I think one for you, Pat, was those perilous scenes. Like there was so much fun having this like how far are you willing to go? How much punishment are you willing to take before you roll the dice? This like creeping feeling of dread, and it's like, oh god, this plague is spreading up my arm. I got to do something right now, or I'm gonna die. Like that was amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. We had talked about this actually last week that Jesse was there. That I think one of the most effective ways in this game to get somebody to roll the dice is put something under their skin.
You're very good at that, also.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it puts something under their skin. It makes it very personal, and like, yeah, get out of my personal space. I'm rolling the dice.
Works like a charm.
But yeah, any other thoughts? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, as a Rose, yeah, I thought you did a really good job, like explaining the rules and like keeping the game flowing. Like I've never played this game, and I don't think Alex had either. But like it, you know,
Okay.
it was all very fluid. It didn't feel like the mechanics like bogged down the game at all. You know,
Right.
it just flowed really well.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and y'all picked up on it really well. Teaching the game, I've had run into some players that this game is so different than anything else that it's hard to grasp in a way. And if you ever pick up these rules and read them, you're like, what? You know, because it just doesn't sink in. It didn't sink in with me the first time I read it. I actually had to play it with somebody else, you know, being overplayer to really understand what the heck was going on. And I'm glad I did because I really like this game. So yeah, so before we take off and end the session, we get to do echoes for next week. So I'm gonna erase our echoes from the pregame, and each of you gets to pick something to add that will carry over into the game next week. So we'll start with, I'll just go left to right on my screen. Alex. So any of those that aren't colored red, you can pick. I'm not opposed to having a moral go in there. We just might need to reword it a little bit to make it into a motif, but you get to choose.
I think I like the crushing weight of human walls.
Awesome. All right. That's the first one. All right, Jesse, you would pick the second one. Jesse, you're muted.
Every time. Sorry, I switched Hangouts to Chrome because I thought it would work better, but I'm in Firefox and Roll20, so that was I keep on not having the tab open, and so not knowing I'm muted. Anyways, anyways, let's say rushing towards the shiny yet unknown.
All right. And Kyle, you get to pick the last one.
I want to pick one of these raven centered ones. Let's go with blood dripping from a raven's beak.
Awesome. Who would have thought this game would have been so bird-centered from the start?
Even the rushing towards shiny things one. That's pretty bird-like.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So cool. So we have a good echoes to start next week. I don't know if any of you are in it. I think Kyle, you're next time. I do have an open spot as of when we started. So Jesse or Alex, if any of you want to take that spot, it's open. Yeah. I'd love to.
I was actually that spot used to be me, and something came up that I unfortunately couldn't get around. So I wanted to drop out early enough that it's easy to find someone.
Awesome. Yeah, that's.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Alex, I have an open spot next week if you'd savvy playing again. But yeah, I enjoyed playing with the three of you. This is a really good table for swords. You gotta have a table that's willing to dive headfirst into the story, and I think the three of y'all did amazingly well in it. And I want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Thanks
you.
for running it. This is so much fun.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. But I'm gonna go ahead and sign off for the night, and I'll see everybody in the community on Slack, G+. I'm around.
Later.
Catch you around.
All right. Good night, everybody.
See y'all.